Nigel Cecil, equity as you like it.
Especially for my equitable friends.
Hello, Jacobatis. Nigel Cecil here, moi, as an entertainment entrepreneur, responding to questions, comments and emails sent in from my equitable friends. And Hilary has been looking through them, haven't you, Hilary? Yes, and Hilary's chosen the topic this time of the Equity Annual Representative Conference that's taking place in about 2 weeks' time in Leeds. And the question posed to Nigel, moi, is the Annual Representative Conference actually suitable for purpose? Well, here's the facts as Nigel sees them, and maybe the activists and other members would like to consider what they think, having heard them. So here we go. Now, the role of the Annual Representative Conference, if you look at the rules, is for the representatives elected by the committees and the branches and the industrial committees and the areas to come together with the council, and here's the key bit, to discuss and decide matters of general policy. I'll echo that, to discuss and decide matters of general policy. Now that's quite clear. But if you look at the timetable for this particular annual representative conference in Leeds, there are 32 motions. Of those 32 motions, wait for it, 2 actually decide matters of general policy. The rest of them, well, they're all requesting, urging, calling on the council to do something. But that's not the role of the Annual Representative Conference. Calling, requesting, asking the council to do something is not deciding matters of general policy. All those motions are out of order in terms of what the ARC is supposed to do. You see, because if a matter of general policy is passed by a 2/3 majority, it's binding on the council. So all those motions being discussed, all 30 odd of them now, well, pass them by a 2/3 majority. Oh, you've urged me by 2/3. Oh, that's more painful than not urging me by 2/3. I mean, bring the centrepods for me, Hilary. Yes, I mean, urge, a 2/3 urge. What's that meant to mean? You see, let me get serious. It's not the role of the Annual Representative Conference to tell the council to do anything. It's the role of the Annual Representative Conference to decide matters of general policy. If it's passed by a 2/3 majority, it's binding on the council. The council's role, their primary role, elected by the whole membership to do so, is to implement policy. The policy decided at the Annual Representative Conference. That's why the Annual Representative Conference can't tell the council anything when it comes to how to implement policy. Only the council can decide how to implement policy. So all those motions, actually, that call upon the council to do something are a total waste of time. But how did this come about? Well, it's because, you see, the original annual general meeting, well, anybody could turn up. So all the radical activists of all complexions, whether you're a socialist or whatever, could turn up, dominate a meeting, and get motions passed by a 2/3 majority, which were then binding on the council, who didn't want to do them because those turning up at the annual general meeting didn't represent the whole membership. So it became annual general meeting, referendum to reverse the policy. Annual general meeting, referendum to reverse the policy. So, of course, the radical activists know if you want to get something changed, first create a problem. And the problem, annual general meeting, referendum. Annual general meeting, referendum. Then actually campaign about the problem you've created and then come up with a solution. And the solution was, let's have an annual representative conference, because then we know which members are coming. And if we're all the activists in the branches, we're actually controlling who gets elected. You see? So that's how it came about. And of course, when it was first formed, there were no referendums. No need. Why? Because, you see, there were 64 members of the council and only 90 so representatives. So those 90 or so representatives couldn't get a 2/3 majority without more or less all the council voting in favour. So for years it went on with everybody happy. But actually, it was the council dominating everything. Well, not quite, because with 64 on the council, the sort of activists realised they couldn't control the council to focus on their agenda, because they couldn't get enough of their hymn sheet singers to stand for the council. So then, reduce the size of the council, say it's costing us too much, say we don't need an executive, say we can save money, say it makes it more streamlined. Reduce the size of the council. So now the council's only 30 odd, and there's what? Over 100 odd representatives. And suddenly over the last few years, the activists have thought, just a minute, if the representatives realise this, they can now pass binding motions on the council with more than a 2/3 majority, because even if all the council were to vote against, there's still enough representatives to pass it by 2/3. So better sort of let them think they have to ask the council to do something. So when some of the representatives said, well, we tell the council, no, you can't tell the council. So that motion's out of order. You have to ask the council. So all these motions now asking the council, when that is not the function of the annual representative conference. The annual representative conference comes together with the representatives and the council to discuss and decide matters of general policy. And if you look, for example, at why I've picked out motion 9, that clearly says, just have a look at this. You see what it clearly says. This ARC agrees. This ARC agrees. It's quite clear. That's decided policy. Now, the reason that's probably snuck through, it started off with saying urge, but then, of course, the council will definitely like this motion because it's an open sesame to knock the government on anything they want. Wow, we can campaign on that one, can't we? Change the world. And, of course, motion 12, well, again, have a look. This ARC agrees. There we go. Change the subs. You see, so it's quite clear, really. At this moment in time, the annual representative conference is no longer fit for purpose. It's not doing what the rules require it to do. To come together, the representatives and the council, to discuss and decide matters of general policy. Now, of course, I have to finish with a chuckle, because some will say, well, of course, you shouldn't express that opinion, Nigel, because, you might upset a few people. But I'm all for subliminal messages. And the other thing, because somebody showed me a copy of the conference guide, and guess what? Yes, I know, Hillary. There's a picture of the General Secretary standing outside the side entrance to Guild House in London. I wonder if he's telling everybody, subtly, subliminally, if you've got a difference of opinion with us, don't express it, don't come near, because we've got you covered. Goodbye, everybody. Please join me again, and I hope anybody going to the annual representative conference realise it shouldn't just be a talking shop. But in the meantime, here's the General Secretary and his notice.
Equity UK, progressively promoting, protecting performers.